So welcome, my name is Tolly Bryn, this is The Joy of Awareness. Today I wanted to talk about dietary ideology and why you should let it go. As always, I can only speak from my own experience. I've gone through so many different dietary fads: keto, paleo, vegan. I was gluten-free for many years. There are so many different fads out there, and it's not to say that all of them are bad. It's just that we're all individuals and we're in different stages of health and we have different digestive systems, and it's absolutely ridiculous to take a single dietary ideology and say that it's the best ideology for the entire world. Vegans, I'm looking at you specifically. But seriously though, I was vegan for almost 3 years in total. I had breaks in between, so it wasn't consecutive three years, but I've never felt sicker than when I was vegan. And the big problem with veganism, I would say, is that it's a dietary ideology that's not focused on human health, but rather on animal well-being. And there's nothing wrong with animal well-being. But from where I am now, I can see that animal proteins and animal fats are incredibly important in a human diet. And I truly believe that we really need these, the nutrition that we get from the animal kingdom in our diet to fully thrive and be healthy. And it's really sad to me to watch some of my friends that used to be vegans, and my ex-girlfriend, for example, and there are more people around me who follow this vegan lifestyle, who are not healthy, who just don't look healthy, they don't feel healthy, but they continue, lying to themselves that this is the healthiest diet that you can possibly follow, and that, eating nothing but vegetables and soy meat substitutes and all this stuff, that this is truly something that's good for you. And that's really the worst part of it all. But, in this video, I wasn't really going to talk about veganism. I was going to talk about dietary ideology in general, because it's not just veganism that's the problem, even though it is a huge problem. All of these diets, they're... in dietary ideology in general, there is a huge problem of lack of individuality. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about my own evolution dietarily, simply because I think it's very helpful. Oh, by the way, I have an awesome cup of bulletproof coffee here. I made it the poor man's way, so I don't have like a blender or anything. So I just I just heated up a pot of water and put a jar of butter in it, melted the butter, poured some coffee in, and then shook the jar, and it's perfect. It's really good. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, dietary ideology. I think ideology in general is basically a mistake. It's not something. Ideology and individuality do not go together, really. But in the realm of diet, I think it's particularly harmful, because, like, for myself, for instance, when I started the keto diet, I felt really good for a few weeks, a few months even, and then I started feeling really bad, and I was just like, but I felt so good like a few weeks ago, but I have to keep going. Like, I'll probably feel even better like in a few weeks, and then a few weeks later I felt even worse, and I was just like, I thought this was the diet for me, but apparently not. And so I went back to whatever it is else that I was eating, went to some other ideology instead. I think it was paleo probably or something. And there's really nothing wrong with taking periods of trying out new diets and everything, but I found it specifically when I fasted in the summer of 2019. I did a long fast, 10 days. And when I came out of that fast, I had this idea in my head that I would go the raw fruitarian route. And I had tried that before, once in the month of January in Reykjavik, Iceland, you know, the period in Iceland where it's the coldest and the darkest, and I would really have needed more animal fats in my diet, but instead I just gave myself imported fruits and vegetables, and it was just ridiculous, and I felt really bad, so I quit. But after the 10-day fast that I did in fact break the fast with grapes and watermelon, as I had decided to. But then, you know, a day or so later, I just felt like, wow, why am I doing this? Why don't I just listen to what my body is asking for? And as I turned inward and started to really think, like, so is my body actually asking for something? Because I did have some cravings for all kinds of things. More specifically, I had cravings for cheese, yogurt, chicken, grapes, and cucumber. And I remember these 5 things very distinctly as being what my body was just really craving and really asking for at that time. So I decided, like, okay, I didn't feel really good after eating only watermelon and grapes for an entire day. So I decided to just simply go out and buy what it was my body was asking for, and I kept it really simple. I think I bought Greek yogurt, some aged cheese, and some grapes. And then I lived off those things for a few days until I went into another fast. It was probably about a week in between that I took, and I felt so much better. And since then, I have followed a very sort of intuitive eating protocol whereby I eat what my body asks for, but I'm pretty sensible about it though, because sometimes, you know, you eat some ice cream or some sugar or something, and the next day you're really craving some Haribo or some chocolate or whatever. And nothing wrong with those things in moderation, I think, but we need to be able to differentiate between actual cravings for nutrition and, you know, cravings for the relief of withdrawal symptoms, such as for coffee, for instance. I'm fully aware that coffee is incredibly addictive, and when I wake up in the morning and I get like a craving for coffee, it's not that there's some nutritional value in coffee that I need. It's more that my body has become so accustomed to the mood boosting and concentration boosting effects of coffee that it goes into withdrawal because it is a drug. And the craving for coffee is actually more of a craving for relief than it is for pleasure. So I think the best analogy is like you being out in the Sahara Desert wearing a thick wool jumper, and when you get a coffee after a period of not drinking coffee, it's like taking off that wool sweater in the desert, and you're just like, oh man, I was so hot. You're probably still hot if you're in the desert, but the relief will be very strong. Same if you were like walking around town wearing shoes that were a size too small and then you take them off. Is that really pleasure or is it relief? So the same thing can be said of coffee and sugar. But I do really love coffee, so. So that's basically what I wanted to talk about in this video. I wrote or rather recorded a video a few months back about modern medicine and modern medical ideology. And personally, I try to be as conscious about any ideology that I pick up as I possibly can, simply because I've found throughout the years that ideology generally doesn't serve me. Ideology generally serves itself only. So when you've got a fad like veganism or like keto, for instance, it's as if these dietary ideologies kind of become like institutions or organizations that try to confirm their own beliefs rather than actually looking at the evidence. And this is why I try my best to live my life in as empirical a fashion as I can, meaning that I try to base my lifestyle fully around my own direct experience and my own the empirical evidence that I gather from my own dietary experiments and health experiments. I even base my experiments more upon anecdotal evidence rather than research, because research, as helpful as it can be, can also very easily be manipulated, and unless you're fully diligent in looking at the sources, looking at the premise of the research, and seeing whether they missed something or whether they put something in that was unnecessary, research I think can really do more harm than good. Or not research itself, I rather mean that relying on studies. That's probably a better way to put it. I'm not saying to dismiss scientific evidence, absolutely not, but for us, people who are not scientifically trained, at least to a very high degree, I think it would really help us if we started to base our ideology, or not our ideology, our ideas and the way we think of the world in terms of what we actually experience around us, rather than what some experts in white lab coats somewhere in some other country tell us is the truth. And I've found my health and my life improve drastically as I've started to implement this sort of way of thinking of the world, or this new paradigm, you might say, into my own life. And obviously I'm very focused on health on this channel and in my work. And this really is the absolute best way to develop true health. Not like what modern medical ideology spouts out. Wow. Oh, okay. I'm drawing a blank on some English words these days. It's not my first language, so I hope you'll forgive me. But the modern medical system has a very solid ideology of ignoring root causes and masking symptoms through allopathic drugs. That's what I was trying to say. And the more we can get away from this ideology and move more into the realm of individualism, empirical evidence, meaning the evidence that you yourself gather from your own sort of observations, rather than depending on experts in other countries or whatever, people who say that they know more than you do about your own health, and direct experience. As you develop this sort of ability to trust yourself, it doesn't mean really like ignoring everything else. It means just becoming more confident in your own ability to discern what is real and what is not. As you develop this ability, things will start getting better. For me, it started with health. I decided to take full responsibility of my own health, of my own healing process. And after I realized, wow, I can really affect my own health way more than any doctor could ever dream of doing, it started to move out into other areas of life. I started to realize, wow, okay, so if I can affect my health in this way, can I affect my finances? Can I affect my relationships? Can I affect the way that I present myself to the world? How I think about the world in general? And it certainly does. It bleeds into all other areas of life. And you might even call that an ideology, but on the other hand, it's not really. What I'm talking about here bases itself on a single premise. And that premise is the primacy of consciousness, to put it concisely, I would say. The primacy of consciousness. And when I say that, I mean the primacy of your own consciousness. So it's a kind of solipsism, really. I put my own consciousness ahead of everything else in this world, simply because it's the only thing that can be truly trusted. Obviously, you can work with ideas from all over the place, and you should. Like, it's not really reasonable to expect that you can kind of reinvent the wheel and just say, like, yeah, even though everybody else believes that the wheel rolls around, I'm not going to trust it until I see it for myself. Although that actually does make sense now that I say it. But anyway, this is kind of what I base my own philosophy on, and it's really, really helped me. And I'm going to keep on trying to see if I can put it into words in a more concise way. But this is kind of the baseline of what I'm working with here, and it's really, really helped me. So I hope that it can help you as well. Let me just end this video by saying that if you've been following any kind of dietary ideology for a long time, be it veganism, keto, Atkins, whatever it is, and especially if you're not feeling well, I certainly know that was the case for me when I was eating as a vegan, living as a vegan, that I was lying to myself every single day. It was just like there were so many things that were wrong, but I was so convinced that what I was doing was ethical and right. And I have very, very strong doubts about the ethics of the vegan movement now, and I'll leave that for a later video. But in the end, it doesn't really matter. In the end, what matters is your own health, and the good that you can do in this world when you're truly healthy, both in mind and body, is so much, much more than you can do by avoiding certain types of animal foods, for instance. But what I would say is, if you've been following some dietary ideology for a long time and you're feeling bad, like I was when I was a vegan, just let it go. Let go of all dietary ideology. And if you can focus on just eating what's whole, what's natural, the least processed items available to you, and if you can intuitively eat what it is your body is calling for, no matter what ideological baggage you may have around it. Like, for instance, I had really a lot of prejudice against dairy products, which are now a very large staple of my own diet, simply because I found through intuitive eating that it's dairy, and especially fermented dairy such as yogurt, is the food that I digest the best, which is just incredibly, just really weird that I developed this complex of avoiding something that was really what served my body the best. And this will be different for everybody. Like, I'm of Nordic origin. My ancestors ate so like a huge part of their diet was dairy. So it's not really weird that dairy works well for my own body. But if you're from another part of the world, it may be some different foodstuffs that you should be focusing on. And that's really the essence of this video, is that you are an individual. You're not part of a collective. and following dietary ideology, any kind, is probably not going to serve you. So I would suggest that you try a different tactic. Try eating intuitively, and you'll probably feel way better. Oh man, this is really good coffee. I actually put a little bit of sea salt in it as well. If you watched my earlier video on the role of salts and electrolytes in fasting, I was talking about adding a pinch of sea salt to your water during a fast. And I'm not really doing a long fast now. I'm fasting until dinner tonight. But if I'm drinking coffee on an empty stomach, it is a diuretic and it does flush out your system. So adding a bit of sea salt to it seems to ameliorate it a little bit. So that's it even tastes a bit better also, like adding a little bit of salt. Anyway, I'm gonna end this video right here. I want to thank you for watching. If you liked it, please like and subscribe, and share this video. You can leave a comment down below if you want me to talk about something in specific. I'm more than happy to answer all comments that come up, and we can have a conversation if you want about whatever. Otherwise, I have a book out called Health Simplified. It's on Amazon. I've got it for $3 right now on Amazon, so it's cheap, and it goes into my own story of healing, my own insights that I found from following a fasting focused lifestyle, and just the incredible healing that I experienced from, overcoming modern medical ideology and starting to trust myself more and developing this paradigm of empirical evidence over the opinions of experts. So check that out if you're interested. I also have a website, joyofawareness.com, where I write all kinds of articles on everything health related, really, not only fasting and physical health, but also mental health and sexual health and all kinds of other things that I'm interested in. And I expect you will be interested in also if you liked this video. So check that out as well. Otherwise, I just hope that you have a great day, and happy healing, happy fasting. See you next time.